In order to explain where I stand on truth, I need to explain how I love FMV adventure games. 40% of FMV adventure games I love because they're well made, they're well acted, they're well scripted, and they've got some production value, and the story is usually good enough for me to be engrossed into it. Another 40% of games of FMVs I love because they're so bad they're good, because it's not got any of those things, and it's generally a car crash to watch on screen. And then there's a subgenre of 20% where they're just like, do you know what, we've got no budget, let's just rely on personality, charisma and absurdity and send up the genre by being purposefully terrible. And I adore that 20%, probably almost as much as the 40% of goodness. Truth sits somewhere between that 20% of sending something so up purposefully because there's zero budget and the 40% of so bad it's good. But I wouldn't necessarily say it sticks the landing because it doesn't commit to one or the other, and so it comes off quite unsatisfying to play. In truth, you play as the audience for a game show that is trying to award someone $1 million. The 6 contestants are tied up to lie detectors, and the idea is that you ask them from a list of questions, groups of 5 questions to each of the contestants, seeing how they answer, but they can't lie because they're tied up to the lie detector. Occasionally they'll try to lie and it will get called out, and it's usually around them saying things that's going to make them look like a bad person or being disingenuous to their character. But in truth, the lie detection doesn't actually play any role in this game whatsoever and feels like a real missed opportunity for hijinks and hilarity in the story. The 6 contestants are weirdly stilted. So you've got this character Joe, who's just angry that he split up from his smoking hot ex-wife. Then Alexis is this horrible Instagram model who I just wanted to shake until she stopped talking. Sam is this nerd whose answers take double the time of everyone else because he's so busy taking big detail that you're like, come on. Autumn is this hippie who wants to be free and naked in the world, but is also oddly very aggressive. So there was a weird odd juxtaposition there. And largely those 4, perhaps Autumn you could almost kind of put in the middle for these 2 categories. These 4 feel like people you might be able to find in the real world. Just about. You'd hate them, mostly, and you would want to avoid them at all costs, but they could exist. Then you have Claire, who's this homeless woman who is clearly cursed and is just running from complete and utter chaos and disaster from one day to the next. No luck, no, good features about her life at all. And it's blatantly the game is trying to be give the $1 million to her, but you don't have to. The fun thing with that is that she's lost her daughter Lilith, who I'm sure is the Lilith that's in Vegas Tales, because Lilith is also cursed in that game, and I could see Katie Maravich's writing popping out time and time again with the ridiculousness of how Claire answers her questions. The 6th character is Lilith, who is a goth who just wants Cthulhu to rise from the ashes, take over the world and kill everyone, and start off a goth cult. And Claire and Lilith are so absurd that they fall into that 20% category of being let's send up the genre and be absolutely ridiculous. And those 2 characters I found really fun and just good fun to have their answers come out again, because you're just wondering what stupidity is going to come out of their mouth next. And Lilith in particular, their character, the actress, is clearly having great fun being just I want everyone dead all the way through. And I found that it's just really well delivered. So I found that good fun. I'd also say Sam the nerd is quite amiable as well at times and is almost a good person. So that leaves Truth really tonally lopsided and not able to pick a lane. And that also then means that the lopsided nature of the game's structure then pulls out more into the fore, because you spend, I'd say, almost half of the game time getting through round 1, picking the 5 questions you're going to ask each of the contestants. And because, particularly for the contestants that get to the end, the final 2, you're going to have to ask all 30 of their questions anyway. The replayability is trying to go through and choose who's going to win next time around, but there's no real ramifications for who you choose. It's just you're going to see some more of their questions get answered because they're going to stay longer in the game. And because you're watching the same stuff appearing over and over again, there's no change of direction, there's nothing you can do to interact or change the course of fate outside of just picking who gets eliminated. that gets very old very quickly. And because all 6 contestants get asked the same 30 questions, you're going to listen to those questions get asked constantly over and over again. I want to like Truth. I struggled with this game an awful lot. I think there's merit in FMV Interactive whilst they've got zero budget in terms of production for the game itself. Just lean into the absurdity. I feel like the writing staff could lean into some of its more quirky humour a bit more, because that was the stuff that was probably landing best for me personally, but that's very much a personal preference. Truth also lacks an awful lot of basic game standards. I was playing this on PC and you can't exit out of the game without Control-Alt-Deleting. There's no menu for changing any of the volume settings or anything like that whatsoever. And the whole experience felt extremely like it had been burned to DVD and was like one of those interactive games, because there was no ability for you to feel like you was playing a video game. It felt like I was playing a DVD and choosing chapters. With that regard, there was actually some hang time for some of the next videos to jump on, which I found slightly odd. And there's also a weird stiltedness, particularly around the game show host, where there's always a second and a half of dead air before he asks the question. And that felt like it could have required slightly tighter editing to make the game feel a little bit more like it was flowing like an actual game show or conversation, I guess. So very rough around the edges. I think there will be a core audience of people that enjoy car crash games that will get a kick out of this. I certainly did in slightly different, in some areas. But even as a so bad it's good game, I'm not necessarily sure that this would be a hard recommend for me personally. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.